Hi folks, this is Travis here at Set Apart Homestead, and was thinking today about increasing your odds of survival, increasing your odds in life. And kind of the thought started from a conversation I was having with another fellow YouTuber that you guys probably all know, Bear Independent. And if you don't know who he is, you need to go check him out. He has an amazing channel, and the guy is really smart. He knows what he's talking about. Anyways, we were talking about how there's so many people out there that they may get it, or at least be somewhat aware that, there is a man behind the curtain kind of thing. That they're not, they're sort of unplugged from the matrix, I guess you could say. But they just figure that there's no point in trying to be a little prepared, that it's not going to matter anyways. We're just all going to die in a ball of flames, so, why try? And it's unfortunate, I kind of think of, and there's more than this, but I kind of think of people in maybe three categories. Those that are just completely oblivious to what goes on in our world, completely oblivious to the potentials of things to happen. They're so plugged in, and their lives are absorbed with all the modern conveniences and entertainment and that sort of thing, that they completely have no clue of what's going on. And then there's folks like myself and probably most of you. Then there's that third category that I mentioned. They're pretty much plugged in, but in the back of their minds, yeah, they get it. There's a corrupt system, and there's lots of scenarios that are possible, and lots of potential for something bad to happen. But they figure, why do anything about it? You're not going to win. You're not going to make it through it. It's too hard to try. It's too much work. Just go with the flow, and whatever comes is what happens. I don't believe that. I don't think that that's, true at all. Now, does that mean that because I try to live a life of preparedness, that means whatever happens, I know in my heart that I will survive and I will come through at the end? No, that's not necessarily true either. There's, all kinds of possibilities of what could happen. But I know that it increases my odds by being prepared. That, it gives me that kind of, leg up in the world, or a leg up when something bad happens, that I know that I have at least something to fall back to, some kind of little buffer, a little cushion to kind of help get me and my family through that. From most of the things that I have read about all these different types of scenarios that, SHTF scenarios, sorry, tongue's twisted a little bit. Most of everything I've read about it say, and it seems pretty logical to me, that if you can survive the first 3 to 6 months, your odds of making it through it are really good. It's that first 3 to 6 months that's going to be absolute chaos. So you just kind of have to get through that, to make it. And that's what being prepared is. It's getting yourself through that so that you can see the other side. And it's silly because that most people on a day-to-day basis do things in their life to prepare themselves for something. But yet when it comes to, preparedness, then you're just a lunatic. If we do things all the time also that increases our odds of survival. If you're diagnosed with a terminal illness, you don't just go home and say, well, whatever happens, happens. No, typically most people will do certain procedures, treatments, medications, different things to, try to increase your odds of survival. Knowing in the back of your mind you may not survive, but hey, you're doing everything you can to increase your odds of survival. We also prepare. Most people, not all, I know this is true, but most people, they have a few days worth of groceries in their home. And part of that reason is because they don't want to go to the grocery store every day. But they also just have things on hand so when they need them. Maybe company shows up, and you need to fix more food, or, a snowstorm happens. People carry spare tires in their cars to prepare for something that might happen. You know, if winter is coming on, you get your winter clothing out, you know, to prepare yourself to stay warm during the winter, that sort of thing. So preparedness is not this like tinfoil hat, crazy conspiracy type thing. It's something that is very natural for humans to do. We've been doing it since, you know, we were created. We store up food so that we have it through the winter, that sort of thing. We've always done that. It's just the media, the left. Although I've met several liberal preppers, but the government, the powers, whatever, you know, term you want to use, they want to paint us as kind of lunatics. But that's really not so. We're just, you know, we're not fearful. We're, you know, I don't walk around in my world living in constant fear that something bad is going to happen to me. I actually live without fear because I know that if something bad happens to me, I have a pretty good chance of handling it. And, you know, I don't live my life with my head stuck in the sand. I'm aware that there are dangers in life. I'm aware that, you know, there are bad people. I'm aware that there are things that can happen in my lifetime and my children's lifetime that are bad. Whether they're just individual instances or some huge catastrophic thing. So being prepared, it increases your odds. That's what you're doing. You know, I'm not a gambling kind of person. I've never been interested in it. It just doesn't interest me. But it's kind of an odds game. You know, you're increasing your odds of survival. And to me, that's just a smart thing to do. It's not really that expensive. I mean, sure, there's all kinds of high-dollar gear out there. There's, you know, I've watched videos, these guys, you know, showing this type of gear, and I'm thinking, man, yeah, that is cool, I'll admit it, but I don't have that kind of money to drop on it. The truth is, though, is that you don't have to spend that kind of money to get all that gear. There are a few things that you may want to spend more money on to get a real good quality, but the majority of stuff are things that you can, you know, go to a yard sale or, you know, some type of used store, flea market, you know, swap meet, that type of stuff, and get. A lot of it is. And as far as food, most of the food that you would prep and, you know, store up is really cheap. You know, it's just really cheap stuff. So you're not spending, you know, large amounts of your income doing this. It's just an insurance policy. It's no different than car insurance, homeowners insurance, and medical insurance. It's just another type of insurance. So think of it that way. You know, when you write out a check for your, who writes out checks anymore? But anyways, you write out a check for your car insurance premium. It's the same thing. And what it is, it's increasing your odds. You know, car insurance may not increase your odds of survival, but it's increasing your odds that if something bad happens, you've got that protection there so that you come out in the end much better. And that's basically what being prepared is. And it doesn't really matter what type of things, but let me take it one step further, because I get a lot of people comment on this, and even though I probably should talk about this more, maybe I should just do a whole video on it, that to me preparedness isn't just having food supplies, medical supplies, gear, things like that. Preparedness is being really as self-sufficient as you can, being able to go out here behind me and live as much as you can and as close to that land as you can. That's, you know, having that ability, that knowledge, that skill. That is true preparedness, because, you know, your gear and your food storage is only going to last so long. And if it's some kind of long-term or permanent catastrophe, you're going to need to know how to eat or take care of yourself or whatever it is. And you can't, you know, you can't say, well, I've got a bucket of seeds so that, you know, when everything goes to, you know, hell in a handbasket, I'm going to go out and plant a garden. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes gardening takes years to build up your soil and learn how, you know, what things grow well and what things don't. I've been gardening for years. In fact, I was employed, you know, once years and years ago when I was young. I had worked as a gardener somewhere, and still, you know, this past year, there were things that just didn't, you know, grow, and maybe it was, you know, the seeds were bad, maybe you know, they just don't grow well here. Maybe it was something I did, but that's part of the whole experience of every year, learning what works well and what doesn't. Learning, you know, medicinal, learning edible plants, different things like that, how to heat and cool yourself naturally, you know, without electricity. Those types of things are what's necessary to be prepared. And everything that you do like that, it just increases your odds for survival. So if nothing else, it's not, you know, it's not some crazy lunatic thing. And this is for those of you out there that are kind of on the edge. Maybe you're new to preparedness, or maybe you're kind of on that edge and you're like, you know, what is it all these people talking about? You know, there's all these things going on in the world, and even the government's now saying have some food supply. You know, what's going on? All it means is that, you know, it doesn't mean you're some kind of crazy whack job just because you're, you know, have supplies to prepare yourself. It just means that you're, you know, it's that little insurance that increases your odds of surviving whatever happens. It could be a natural disaster, it could be a local disaster, it could be some type of catastrophic, you know, global, regional, national disaster, whatever it is. And all you're doing is saying, hey, I have this stuff and I have this skill up here, and you know, if something bad happens, I know that I have a pretty good chance of surviving it. Because like I said, odds are all you need to do is make it for 3 to 6 months. If you can make it for 3 to 6 months, you have a really, really good chance of surviving. And you know, I hate to sound like a doomsday or anything, but after 3 to 6 months for something big, you know, if there was some type of global or even, you know, nationwide type of, you know, collapse, you know, the electric grid goes down, some type of war or whatever, after 6 months, most of the people that just aren't going to make it, they're already gone. And so, like I said, your odds of making it after that are pretty good if you've got the skill, the knowledge, you know, and a few things set aside to get you through that period. And so, you know, isn't your life worth that? Isn't your children's life, your wife, your husband, your loved ones, aren't they worth that? To know that, you know, you put a little bit of money, a little bit of time into it, and you have that kind of backup plan. I mean, most people have hobbies or things that they spend money on anyways, no matter how poor you are. Most people, you know, have their thing that they're, you know, spending their money and their time on, you know, to kind of, you know, do something with. Well, you know, you can look at this that way, except that the time and money that you're putting into it is going to have, you know, a good benefit to it in the end, that you and your family are going to, you know, have a greatly increased odd of surviving. So next time someone says something like that, just say, hey, I'm just increasing my odds. And for those of you that are new to this or wanting to get into it, look at it that way. You know, you're not becoming some like crazy nut job, you know, living in a cave, suspicious of everything and everyone. You're just increasing your odds. It's just your own little insurance policy is all it is. So that is something that, you know, try to look at it that way. All right. Thank everyone for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.